Dolphins fan. Let's go!
All right, huddle up, huddle up. We're gonna crank these engines up on one. All right? Wait, 80. Wait, 80, set. Drivers, start your engines.
This is the Finish Line.
I coached a great offensive lineman in the past. Larry Little, Dwight Stevenson, Jim Langer, all Hall of Famers, and Richmond Webb belongs to that same group.
Here are your hosts, legendary Miami Dolphins left tackle Richmond Webb, Reason, and Mr. BallGame.
What is good, Fin Nation? What is good, Fin Nation? I'm over here looking like Rudolph. What's good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. And we are back here for another one as we meet y'all at the Finish Line. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, the legendary Richmond Webb, Triple OG Mr. BallGame. Before we get into everything, shout out to Glenn Hare. Just got a donation about 14 minutes ago from him. $63 Canadian, and he says expert Dolphin coverage by knowledgeable hosts and guests, has the inside scoop, and information is almost always on the mark. I listen to every YouTube Phinside the NFL broadcast. Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate the kind words. I appreciate the donation. I appreciate the support. All of you guys, please support us the same way he did. If you can't donate, smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. I appreciate all of y'all for coming through. Gentlemen, we are less now than a week away. We are 6 days away from rookies reporting to training camp, and we're about 13 days away from the veterans reporting. Football's in the air. Can you feel it tingling everywhere? Can you feel it right now? Football is in the air, gentlemen. And I know Richmond Webb was just impressed by my Broadway performance, but I want to know how y'all are feeling with football. You know, hey, it's creeping up like Father Time on an old man, right? So how are y'all feeling right now? I know how Richmond's feeling. Now all of a sudden he's a Spurs fan once they get Wembanyama. Okay, we see how that is. But
this with y'all regular sized people, y'all don't have to deal with this. So you know, when the big size is going,
not the regular size.
Yeah.
We can't all be Nephilim, Richmond. I'm sorry.
See, y'all don't put no teeth behind y'all X. Y'all got X or maybe 2X. You start dropping them LTs on there, this and that, then y'all will feel what I'm saying. But no, man, I'm riding with the Heat. But these was on sale. I think I got this one, the Rockets, the Mavericks. They was on clearance. So hey, when the big fella can squeeze in, the big fella got to do what he got to do, man.
Hey, perfect timing after they got Wemby, though. I mean, they just got the hottest draft prospect since LeBron.
Man, he was hot one day and cold the next. I think that first practice he didn't do too well. And man, them people was coming for him.
Oh, you see that second game? You see that second game? Balls out, and they said, all right, shut him down. Shut him down. Bro, that boy needs to put on some strength, though, eh? Like,
you gotta add some weight,
If he adds about 10, 15 pounds of muscle, that kid is going to be scary, man. That guy got AI handles for a 7'6". I'm like, what's going on here, bro?
That's crazy. It's just, the game has changed so much. It's like
looking like Sean Bradley though.
Hey, don't hate on Sean Bradley. Wasn't he still a Munster in the original Space Jam? He at least made that still, no? Come on, don't hate on Sean Bradley.
They made
the cut for that, yeah.
That's it.
Oh man.
Reason going from Broadway to stand up with Dave Chappelle tonight. He all over the place. But man,
heat stroke. I got heat stroke, bro. I don't know what's going on.
Tell him what happened today, dog. Come on.
Bro, look at my nose. I look like Rudolph, bro. Let me light the way, Santa. Where do we need to go?
Yeah. Before you chime in, he been at the music park with the family, so he was, he been doing his duty. So I shout out to him. Took his daughter to the music park and all.
That's what I was saying. He must have been sitting outside. He must have been outside all day.
Yeah. So that heat working.
So you forgot. So you went through the whole process of getting ready.
I forgot.
So you went through the whole process of getting ready, packing all of the bags, and forgot the one thing that you
put sunscreen on the kid. Put sunscreen on the kid. Did everything. And I went to the water park portion of it, so you can imagine how bad it was.
Off the red. Yeah, you earned that.
Oh man.
Lady Cupid and Donner and Blitzen. The most famous reason.
Dolphins for life since the Jets are a joke and the Bills are a choke. 13. Oh my god. And then he comes back and he says Richmond, skinny Benyama ain't got nothing on the Heat.
Nah, I'm riding with the Heat, brother. Yeah, I'm riding with the Heat. So,
how you feeling, BallGame? How you feeling?
I mean, I'm good, man. It's a good time to it's really, the closer we get, the more anxious I get to see what Fangio really gonna put out there as his for the first 8 weeks. I'm always kind of I understand the process. I understand how long it takes sometimes for guys to acclimate, but with the level of athleticism and experience that we have on the other side of the ball, I know for a fact adding Jalen back to that back end is going to speed up a lot of what he wants to do for the secondary, and that's going to make things a little bit easier on the linebacking core. The line just got to get right, and the one thing I'm always concerned about is guys going out now at this point, because this is a season where they really got to go out and prove that they deserve to be amongst the elites. And the talk is there. Now they got to walk the walk. We just gotta stay in front of that injury bug. It bit us some last year, and it bit us the year before. Hopefully our turn with it is gone, and we can go ahead and put this product out there that without a shadow of a doubt, I think everybody's anticipating seeing, and go ahead and take this thing home. But it's a good time, right? I mean, it's one for one content, two, just the anticipation of football season is right around the corner. So it's always a good time. So
yeah, it's so close you can taste it basically right now. The best is when fall hits and then that fall smell hits the air and you're like it smells like the midst of the middle of football season. That's also a good time too.
Bro, when I'm sitting
all right, I want go ahead.
So when I'm sitting at the house, man, with my laptop in front of me, and I'm watching my young boy out there playing against DEA. I don't know if you know who that is, Richmond, but they're out there your way this Saturday. When the young kids start playing, and then you're getting calls from the coaches saying, "Hey, I'm gonna need your help. I need you to come out and help us get this right, because we can't be losing no more games like this type of thing." It's football season then. So I gotta figure out something, man. When cats start calling, and they really want you to come out and help them tweak some things. Football season is here, so yeah. And the young kids, and their passion for the game make it all even that much more special, because they play it for the love, trying to get to the next level. The pro game is different, but at the same time, Some of the youngsters still have the passion for it, and I think as long as guys go out there for the game, for the passion of the game, then that will make the games exciting, and that's a lot of what I want to see from this team this year. So the passion, right? Because they got everything in place to be able to make the run and be successful on the back end. So that's it.
I want to get your guys' thoughts before we get into everything. It wasn't really on your list of things to talk about. It's just kind of an opening thoughts type thing. Christian WIlkins. Okay, as you guys know, every year, and we're gonna go over the safeties tonight, right? Every year, ESPN through Jeremy Fowler, they come out with this list voted on by the NFL executives, NFL coaches, NFL scouts. Okay, and they've done off-ball linebackers. They've done interior. They've done linebackers, interior defensive linemen, and edge rushers, and then they just released safeties today. We'll get into that. Before we do, though, when they did interior defensive linemen, gentlemen, all the guys who have been re-upped this year, Daron Payne, Dexter Lawrence, all the guys who have been paid, got those $20+ million re-ups on the interior, made the top 8 of the list. Christian WIlkins made the honorable mentions. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is now like the 3rd or 4th list where of a top 10 where he's made the honorable mentions. He's not cracking people's top 10. And I think it goes back to what we talk about in terms of he's not a complete pass rusher yet, right? And I want to ask you guys this. Let's throw out all those ones let's throw everyone out except the ESPN one. The ESPN NFL minds are actually involved in, right? And I'll start with you, BallGame. Just your thoughts on this. Do you think this is another reason? Okay, we know historically the Dolphins come in and low ball and they take a time to get there. Do you think the Dolphins share that belief? Do you think that's where the holdup is? He's sitting here saying, I'm a $22 million. I'm around what that reset market just got set at. I'm around that. And they've got the same belief as a list voted on by scouts. And because I asked this BallGame, because if they believed he was a top 5, this would probably be already done. Okay. Is Fangio sitting there saying, hey, guys, we already know that's not, you don't need to pay a premium at that position in my scheme. It's for edge rushers and second level and secondary guys you got to pay the premium for. And thirdly, BallGame, are too many Dolphin fans wearing their not rose-colored, but their aqua and orange-colored glasses and not seeing it through the eyes of the business and evaluation standpoint and more so seeing it through the fan standpoint? They love the player. They love him as a leader. He seems infectiously nice, all that kind of jazz. Do you think they're letting that skew? Because you see a lot of people in Dolphin lands will claim he's, top 5 or the top 3 or the best interior defensive lineman, and clearly this isn't being believed across the league, BallGame, and not just by the Dolphins, I'm saying.
Well, I think, to be honest with you, I think having your name in the NFL record books for any type of individual statistic is a great thing. But when you're talking about the guys that are ahead of him on the list, you have to, just because it's the right way to go about doing business, set your personal feelings aside about the player, because everybody knows that he's an amazing guy. His energy levels are through the roof. You know what I'm saying? He gets everybody else around him just extremely involved in the process, and they just want to just play harder because he's always got the energy. You need a guy like that. But you have to ask yourself at some points, too, is he going to take where he is now and elevate that? Because those other guys that are ahead of him, like you said, statistically, they are also premier pass rushers at the interior spots that they man. And that can... If it was me as a, executive inside the Dolphins organization, that would be the biggest question mark that I have on the board, because then you'd be asking yourself, do we pay this money in the hopes that he can get there and do these things consistently, as opposed to ranking, as opposed to just offering him a contract that meets and matches where he is and then take care of it later on, maybe the second contract, because there's so many other pieces that you have to address and things of that nature. Now, I think Christian can do himself a favor by just truthfully just saying to himself, okay, the pass rush element is something of my game that I do need to improve on. Yes, I can get tackles. Yes, I run down plays. Yes, I'm a high energy guy, but I got to be able to finish. And that's always been the question over the last decade in regards, outside of Cam Wake. Guys can get there with pressure, but can you finish? Finish with the sacks. Finish with the interior push and be so dominant on the inside that the offensive line is arguing with each other after every play, trying to figure out who the hell got this guy, why we can't block him, type of thing. And those are the things that you attribute to guys when you talk about the greats, like a Aaron Donald. You know what I'm saying? Like a
Chris Jones right now.
Chris Jones, yeah. Guys that no matter where they line up along that front four, you have to figure out where they are and assign 2, sometimes even 2 plus 2.5 with the chip guy to slow him down, type of thing. And if he wants that $22.5, $23 million a season, he's got to be that impactful at that position, because those other guys for their teams have proven to be so. They have the most coveted statistics that he doesn't currently have, which is the sacks. Sacks matter, especially when we've now transformed the football game to a space where it's more pass-oriented than run-oriented, right? And if you look at the statistics, Raekwon Davis actually was more effective in the run-stopping spaces than Christian was as well. So he's also having to deal with that. And then you got Siler, who is also, right there on his heel. So $22.5 million for a guy that we know without a shadow, we got his backup, or the guy right behind him is giving us the same level of productivity. It's hard to rationalize that when the one key element that they want the most, he's just not giving you consistently, which is the sacks. And yeah, Dolphin fan, I do believe to some degree we do that to ourselves, though. We fall in love with the player so much that we lose focus of what his true job really is. And we take our personal feelings about it and say, well, say he's such a great guy. We had him for the 4 years. When we drafted him. But if there's 5 blocks and he only checks off 3 out of 5, what do you really do? Is that really smart business to give a guy that checks off 3 of the 5 blocks top money when those other 2 blocks that he's not fulfilling consistently are the most important elements of what you need from him? I just, some lists, some lists when you look at them. But we've known for quite some time that that's the one element of his game that needs to improve. And I'm really okay with the Dolphins saying, you know what, you still got to prove to us that you can get this done before we decide to make this type of investment in you. Because if you can't get that from him, then you got a guy behind him who's not going to command as much. And Siler can actually push the pocket a lot better, and actually is a little more effective in the pass rush game. So
and cheaper.
It's a tough situation to be in, but it's also one that I'm glad we're in, because that means that we have quality depth behind him in the event that we're not able to get something done with him. And you can go ahead and sign Silent, and he's right there, still living in this trailer on the compound, on the ground. So he might go buy something later now if you get a bigger, but it won't be $22 million. So I'm okay with it, man, and love Christian to death, man. But the business side of things, I'm sorry I'm long-winded, but this is a real personal one for me, because I loved him ever since he came out of Clemson. I kept saying over and over again, he just needed to grow into his grown man body, all these different things. But pass rushing is what's going to be key now to keep guys getting huge contracts, because we're in a new era. It's pass before run. So,
what are your thoughts, Richmond? And where are you at with this? By the way, Dolphins for Life says thank you, Richmond, for watching Dan's back. Love you. And 1017 man says I love to see Christian's last 6 weeks of pressure stats because he seemed unstoppable. Richmond, where are you at with this? These lists are leaving him off. There's clearly a pay gap that that him and the Dolphins are at right now, and it's we know he wants to be paid over $20 million, and what are your thoughts on this?
Let me say, can I say one more thing?
One more. That's it. And that's it. That's it for the night.
That's it. All right. So I see what my man's saying about the pressures, but here's the thing, right? If you've got 2 guys that are busting their butts coming off the edges, and they're actually making the quarterback step back in the pocket, pocket. Christian's job is to finish that dude, finish that deal, and make sure that that quarterback, when he's stepping back up in the pocket, is being taken out, right? That's the whole point of it. If they miss him, if they corral him and push him back up into the pocket, your DT, if you're a premier guy, he's supposed to be closing the deal and wiping that guy away. That's what he's got to finish. So the pressures are great, but at this point now, we expect sacks from him because the other guys are getting them. So that's what I want to say about that in regards to his comment.
Go ahead, Richmond.
Oh yeah, I like messing with BallGame. No, I mean, I think BallGame did a hell of a job kind of breaking down everything. The one thing that I thought about when you were posing the question of BallGame, when you said something about possibly resetting the market, that typically happens early in preseason. By now, people are starting to sign. You're pretty close to camp, and so the money is not what it is. And I think at this point, like you say, when the lists start coming out, the NFL execs know, people know, and the Dolphins, if they really hadn't came up on the money, at some point, you and your agents got to be creative and say, okay, if I don't get what I want, then I need to try to get as much guaranteed money as possible, to make this thing work, and then, sometimes I say, okay, if I was to leave and go somewhere else, you got to start playing the numbers, because you can say, well, I'm getting 20 million here, but you might can get 18 in Florida. Cost of living, I think about it a little different, because I say some people get caught up on the number. I get caught up on, at the end of the day, after taxes, all that, what's coming to the bottom line. And if we can't get it worked out, I need to try to get as much guaranteed money as possible, as I possibly can, to help secure my future. And the other thing is like you said, when you're in a situation where you got other guys nipping at your heel, and the way this defense and the way this team is being designed, when you start getting depth and stuff like that, a lot of times as a GM, as an organization, sometimes you got to make those tough decisions and say, we would love to have you, but we can't have you at this number. We got to, for us to make it work, it's got to be somewhere around here. And that's a decision, him and his agent, and hopefully, I think they'll get it worked out. I don't know what the final number will be, but when you got, like BallGame said, when you got depth and stuff, it makes it harder. But, if you're a dog and you just relentless and this and that, and they say, well, we got to have you, typically it puts pressure on teams to say, we've got to go ahead and pay this dude, this and that. We don't piss him off, this and that. But I think, he has enough qualities that, I would love to see him stay. I met him actually at the draft in Nashville, and some of his family, great family. And
don't Ted Ginn me. Don't Ted Ginn me, eh? Don't Ted Ginn me, eh? We're not just getting Ted Ginn. You remember? We're not just getting Ted Ginn. We're getting his family, too. They're a great family. You don't remember that? I'm just joking. I'm just trolling you. That's all.
No, I ain't got no decision. I ain't got no dog. Get, bro. But I think he's a leader. I think he's well respected around the locker room. That type of stuff, council stuff. But like you said, we got Davis and other guys that's right.
Bro, I want Christian WIlkins to stay. I just want him at the right price.
And I think that's the part of being a fan. Like, you fall in love with him and say, this is our guy, this and that. And a lot of times you go to another team, the fans actually be really pissed off at you. But it's, at the end of the day, it is a business, this and that. But I would love to see him stay. But I think it's going to be a challenge for him to get the actual number that he wants. I think they'll get it paid, and hopefully everybody can remain happy. The last thing you want, somebody disgruntled, this and that. Just with the way everything's going, it needs to work out and just come in.
With the cap hell we're going to enter, we know we're about to enter a cap hell, right? And I'll be honest with you, and people might not like to hear this. I think they're more concerned about locking down Holland, Phillips, and Waddle long term than they are locking down WIlkins, and those are right on the horizon, right? They know if Tua balls out and stays healthy this year, they know he's about to get the bag. Then they got to work out how Tyreek because, I said this on my Patreon video yesterday, Patreon only video, 3 takes. Boys, when you actually sit back, there's only 5 guaranteed players I could sit back and say will be here in 5 years. Ready for it? Kader Kohu, Jalen Phillips, right? Jevon Holland, Jalen Waddle, and if he plays well and stays healthy this year, Tua Tagovailoa. Who else is going to... Tyreek ain't going to be here in 5 years. Chosen and Braxton are on 1-year deals. Eric Izakama, we don't know what he's going to become. The whole running back room is on rookie deals. A-Chain might be the only one here, but he's only on a 4-year deal. So he's not even on a 4-year and an option. All right, because of where he was drafted. Teron Armstead won't be here in 5 years. Connor Williams won't be here in 5 years. Let's be real about this. Robert Hunt is in a contract year. We'd like to say he'll be here in 5 years, but they haven't re-upped him, right? I mean, when you actually start to sit back, Brandon Jones, we don't know what he's going to be when he comes back from the injury this year, right? You would have said last year he'll be here in 5 years. You don't know. Nick Needham, another guy we would have said, okay, he could be here for the next 5 years. We don't know what he's going to be like with the injury, and because of his injury, look at the depth that's accumulated. I mean, David Long, 2-year deal. Jerome Baker, he won't be here in 5 years, right? Bradley Chubb won't be here in 5 years. So when you actually start to put those things into perspective, it's kind of crazy when you actually sit back and actually think. And that's why that's why I say what I said, where they view, I think Waddle, Holland, and Phillips are a bigger priority than Wilkins, and they know what's on the horizon. And that's why I think they want him at their number. You know what I mean? And that's why I think that's why it might be why they're taking such a hard stance right now, because like Richmond said, he's right. You're not going to reset the market right now. That market's already been reset. Now he's trying to get that money near the reset market. And, if it ain't happened now, I don't know, So it seems like they might be, totally copacetic with letting this play out and on the franchise tag. I don't know. But speaking of that list that started this whole conversation off, gentlemen, the safety list came out today. Like I said, they've done off-ball linebackers, edge rushers, interior defensive linemen. So we've had on a defensive tackles, we had Christian WIlkins make the honorable mentions. On edge rushers, gentlemen, we had Jalen Phillips make the honorable mentions. And then yesterday on cornerbacks, Jalen Ramsey was ranked the number 3 quarterback in the NFL, and Xavier Howard was the first honorable mention at 11. Here we go. Minka, there's already a Dolphin at number 1. Minka Fitzpatrick is number 1, voted on by executives, coaches, and scouts. Derwin James, this is how special this kid is, even through the injuries, that coaches, executives, and scouts still think this highly of Derwin. Such a good player when he's healthy. Unbelievable. Derwin James, we've been robbed of a potentially Hall of Fame career at this point. He's still only 26. Derwin James at 2. Justin Simmons at 3 when he was 1 last year. Budda Baker came in at 4. And guys, Jevon Holland comes in at 5. His highest ranking from someone was he was getting votes for the number 3 spot. And last year he was simply an honorable mention at 23 years old, might I add. He is the youngest in the top 5 as well. And they says the buzz on Holland has been building since last year when he made a significant push for the top 10 after his rookie year in Miami. Every time you watch Miami on cross tape, you see number 8 and say, that's a real guy. The next one they pay, an NFL personnel director said. Holland has shown his versatility since being drafted in 2021. In 33 games, he has 4 interceptions, 17 pass deflections, 2 fumble recoveries, 4 sacks, and 165 tackles. And he's also one of the best blitz. Brandon Jones might be the best blitzing safety, but don't sleep on Jevon Holland's ability to blitz. He's a fantastic blitzer. There's a refinement to his game that coaches and scouts respect. He does everything. Range, can play around the box, tackles. Ultimate chess piece, said a scouting director. Boys, it feels like we're getting our flowers. And sorry, guys, I got to do the old Barry Horowitz because I've been talking about Jevon Holland on YouTube since 2019, 2020, and I've been talking about him on the channel since it started. I've been a massive Jevon Holland fan. I've been telling all y'all this was the next dude. I actually compared him in Oregon. I said he reminds me of prime Jamal Adams. Remember how they used to use Jamal Adams with the Jets before he hit the bricks?
Boom.
That's what he reminded me of. And, if Jamal Adams' ball game would have kept those few years with the Jets and kept that as a consistent pace, we might be talking about one of the better safeties that ever played the game by the end of it. I think Jevon Holland is going to be one of those guys where people come in the league ball game and they say, I want to be Jevon Holland. He's a player people get comped to. And ball game, we had two
I got no argument
in the top 11. We got this guy in the top 5. Ballgame, what are you expecting from the secondary under Fangio, and how good does it feel to see Holland get his flowers, man?
Well, we did a deep dive into who he was coming out of Oregon, so we kind of knew without a shadow of a doubt that he was a special talent. And you talked about him in great detail to the point that anybody that didn't listen and that don't know who he is kind of crazy. I think the biggest thing is that, getting everybody back healthy, the strength of this team is going to be the secondary. And we all saw how great they played together when X had somebody that he could depend on opposite him on the opposite side, taking the number one receiver and things of that nature away. And Jalen and X together are going to be a dynamic duo. And then when you add in the fact that now Holland doesn't have to do any of the stuff, any of the requirements he had last year in regards to help, and support in the coverages and all that type of stuff. And he can just be back there on the perch doing exactly what he does best, which is natural to him, roaming in the roaming in the deep middle. That in itself is going to change the complexion of most games, because you're not going to outthrow him, and you're not going to outthrow him to the sideline. He can get his range is unreal. So it's just going. I think this year we'll see exactly what we anticipated him being a top flight ball disruptor and player back there in the secondary for us. There's no doubt about it in my mind. This Fangio defense fits him a lot more than a lot of other schemes would, because with that match coverage, they get the flexibility, of actually dialing in on their particular target. If it's cover 4 and if it's quarters protection, and they say a team goes doubles to both sides, now all he has to do is read the number 2 receiver. And nobody does that better. He doesn't have any responsibilities. They don't have to worry about the 2 guys on the outside, because those guys are islands all to themselves. Now he gets to hone in on his guy. And he also has a curl flat and a seam flat guy underneath him. So if the running back flexes out, he don't have to worry about any of that. He just has to worry about number 2. And in this match zone coverage, that plays more to the intelligence of the player and the athleticism of the player. They don't have to think about a whole bunch of other intricate pass offs and all that type of stuff. If the guy comes past 8 yards and he's going vertical, you take him. If he's bending and banging it, if he's banging to go to the post, now at that point you squeeze the post. And if there's no other pull route on the backside from the strong safety and you're in quarters, now you got 2 guys basically going to be right back there helping each other. So nobody's ever going to get deep on you. And this, as long as they understand the rules to it, and these guys are smart and intelligent and fast, and I think this Dolphins secondary is going to be one of the top. I predict them being one of the top 3 units in the league this year in this Fangio match zone defense. So, yeah.
Let me ask you this, ball game, before we get to Richmond's thoughts here, because you heard Brandon Staley was talking about it yesterday, and the disciples always talk about it, like, in this new day in NFL, in this passing league, you want to limit explosive plays as possible, and that's the key to this defense, is limiting explosive plays. Do you think in your, especially because of how well, secondary is your specialty, do you think this is one of the better secondaries you've seen built to stop explosive plays in this style of defense? Because listen, I know you I forget what kid it was. You coached one of those kids that was on that Rams team that won the Super Bowl with Ramsey. But even and they had Taylor Rapp out there. And who was it again? Who was it?
Hill.
Yeah, Hill. So let me ask you this. This secondary is clearly way more talented than that secondary ball game. So what are your thoughts on this secondary's ability to limit explosive plays? Because that's the key for this defense. Is this one of the better secondaries you've seen assembled to do that?
I think I thought, without a shadow of a doubt, to be honest with you, that when we drafted Holland and we had Jones on the opposite side, that group was special. And then to go out and pull a guy like Ramsey, who completely takes a whole side of the field, you know what I'm saying, from the numbers to the outside line away from you, and then you got X, who is a natural ball hawk on the opposite side, who doesn't even now at this point have to even take the number one guy and can play free and not have to worry about having to. No other team, you can't tell me other than, I mean, there's other teams with special players in their secondaries, but no team lines up with 3 top flight guys at their positions like the Dolphins do, and that can do all of the things you want from them. If you want a guy to go down and play press, they can do it. If you want them to back up and play match zone coverage, they can do that as well. And then at the same time, they engage in the run game too. This secondary here in this era that we're in right now, I don't know of another secondary out here that can do and probably execute at a high level what they're going to be able to do. They are the elite of the elite at their positions. And you know what I'm saying? However you want to match them up, whoever they say is, with X being that honorable mention, that's a personal thing. But in this defense, he's going to have an opportunity to show the world, or the NFL world, exactly why he's still extremely special. Jalen's already done it. X is going to do it. Holland's just going to go back to being the dog that we know he was going to be. And then whoever's at the strong safety, the guys who are going to benefit from all of this the most is the strong safety position. Because at that point, he's the extra cog. And, you know, if they walking him down the box, all you got to do is worry about curve flat, hard flat, seam flat. You know what I'm saying? Pick up and help and support, make sure that the linebackers are true, you know what I'm saying? And help out in the run game. But them other 3, you got these whole, even if it's cover 3, nobody's getting deeper than Holland. And then we still have the flexibility to be able to, with the linebacking core, all these different things. These guys are fast, man. Our linebackers can run with slot receivers. Our linebackers can outrun most tight ends. Seams, annihilated. All that different stuff. But all of that happens, and all of that comes to fruition because of the fact that you have 2 dogs out there on the outside on those islands. And you gotta pick your poison the way you're gonna throw the ball to. And you're gonna have Ramsey over here eating you up, or you're gonna have X over here ball hawking, and he know how he looks to jump passes. So they take your poison, but it's gonna be tough, man. That's tough for quarterbacks, especially with most teams having young quarterbacks. Savvy guys, I don't give a shit. Roger's gonna have a problem too. He'll be running for his life. So
Richmond, what are your thoughts, man?
Excited, bro. It's got me excited.
Especially from a standpoint, Richmond, like, you know, you were a player yourself. I mean, do these lists even matter, you know, to these players? Does a list like this, what's voted on by executives, scouts, and NFL players, does that hold more weight than one of those random lists made by some guy in his basement that works for CBS? What are your thoughts on Jevon Holland actually getting his flowers? And also, as a former player, what are your thoughts on these lists, and specifically one that ESPN claims executives, coaches, and players and scouts are taking part in?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with the list. I mean, I think, and I can't believe the way they've had some of these guys ranked, that NFL executives or GMs or someone in the scouting department definitely chimed in about the caliber of these players, especially at the safety position. And, you know, like you said, Holland's been a dog since he left Oregon. I mean, he didn't miss a step. He's continued to just climb that ladder. I thought last year with Jones being out a little bit, he couldn't actually do what he did the previous year, where you would have really seen that as far as coverage, as far as coming up, laying the wood, this and that. As an offensive lineman, you watch stuff like this. So when you see a player like that, and he come up and hit and lay wood like that, you'd be like, oh, he's a dog. He can go. And you got to know where a guy like that is, because it's not that he's more of a one-dimensional. Sometimes you get guys that just want to cover, or, you know, guys that can, you want to come up and hit and this and that. He's a guy that not only going to hit, but he could force a turnover, this and that. He's got that big playmaking ability. And like you said, with X on one side and Ramsey on the other side, and then with the pass rush, everything we got, it's scary. And I think he's going to have a phenomenal season. He just got to stay healthy And I think that's why everybody is excited. If you truly kind of understand what the Dolphins have assembled, not just on offense, but on defense, man, you got to sit back and just say, here we come. Like Prime say, when Florida State, we coming. We coming. So the Dolphins, we coming. Yeah, you ain't got to look for us. We coming.
That was perfect timing because, you know, when you paused there, it sounded like someone was playing the flute in the background, hot cross buns or something, doing their practice. Oh, man. Okay, well, speaking of the defense.
Oh, my God. My grandbaby.
Oh, yeah? Does she play in the that's hilarious. That's awesome.
Don't blame that on your wife, man. Don't do that. Come on now. Tell us what you jamming over there. Come on.
That's my wife, man.
All right. Before we get into our list of, you know, breakout candidates, just because we're on the defense, this article, really good article, came out here today. Why Dolphins can be the NFL's most dangerous team behind vastly improved defense. Dreams of a healthy Tua Tagovailoa connecting downfield with Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, creating a chunk play after a perfectly placed underneath pass already dominate expectations for this year's Miami Dolphins. In truth, the biggest improvement should come from the defensive side of the ball and help elevate Mike McDaniel's squad from playoff hopeful to AFC elite. Last year's Dolphins finished 9-8 overall and earned a wild card berth with the NFL's 6th ranked offense. Miami achieved the ranking despite Tagovailoa missing 4 regular season contests. Conversely, the defense ranked 18th overall. Realistically, the Dolphins could easily crack the league's top 5 offense this fall with Tagovailoa in the lineup for most, if not all, of the season, whereas a significant leap on defense can occur thanks to a few changes in one specific individual ready to assert himself among the league's best. After last year's effort, the organization parted ways with previous defensive coordinator Josh Boyer. Vic Fangio's hire as Boyer's replacement may be the offseason's biggest coup. Fangio has been at the forefront of the league's latest defensive trends, while his groups have been consistently found among the best. I knew Vic was so different, and there wasn't really anybody like Vic, former Fangio assistant and current Chargers head coach Brandon Staley told The Athletic's Robert Mays in 2020. It's because of the depth that we play at. And it's not like Tampa 2, which is way different because there's too much air in the coverage. We just play with more depth. When you start with that premise, you can really open up thinking to play the way you need to play to stop people. Essentially, the NFL trended away from the once influential Legion of Boom style cover 3 approach with Fangio's open safety looks, 2 split safeties playing deep inside of a single high defender. At its core, an NFL is a copycat league. Coordinators have taken Fangio's schemes and added with their own twists. To illustrate this point, the NFL saw an increase of 2 high safety looks by more than 2,300 pass attempts from 2016 compared to last season. Meanwhile, the master continues to tweak and adapt his own play call sheet. The basic philosophy is to disguise looks better, drop more defenders deeper into coverage, force quarterbacks into being impatient with the potential to force them into mistakes. Since becoming the San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator through his failed tenure as a defensive Broncos head coach, Fangio's defenses have never been the problem. During that span, his units finished among the top 5 overall 5 times, in the top 10 7 times, and only once among the bottom half of the league. The defense does 2 things. It creates turnovers and it stops explosives, Dolphins safety coach Joe Casper told reporters. And the number one way to win games in the NFL is to create turnovers or protect the ball and stop explosives. While the system and communication play with a vital part in any unit's success, the position in which individuals are placed is equally important. From a roster standpoint, 2 acquisitions should help elevate the entire Dolphins D. Jalen Ramsey steps in as Xavier Howard's bookend after Byron Jones missed all last season with injuries. And he retired this offseason? I didn't know that. They said Byron Jones chose to retire this offseason. Okay. Ramsey's a 6-time Pro Bowler honoree, and NFL evaluators recently ranked the 28-year-old veteran as the league's 3rd best quarterback. For me, it's more about effort than ability, a scout told Jeremy Fowler from ESPN. I don't think he's declined physically. He can still do all the things that make him great. I'm just not sure he always plays hard, said that scout. Ramsey has always been a better player when he's challenged. Last year's Rams squad held a 3-day record by the start of December and faced multiple issues throughout the roster due to injuries and turnover. An opportunity to play in Fangio's scheme for something meaningful again should have Ramsey operating as a premium defender. He'll be locked in Miami. That defense is corner-friendly, an anonymous scout told Fowler. Fangio has made good corners who can't play have good seasons, so imagine what he can do with a star like Jalen. Ramsey is a superstar with the size, length, physicality, and playmaking abilities to thrive in a scheme that will allow him to take advantage of those traits. Meanwhile, David Long Jr. signed a 2-year, $11 million free agent contract to join the Dolphins and replace last year's leading tackler, Atlanta Roberts. The latter is an excellent downfield plugger, but he's always struggled working in space. Long won't be a hindrance in the passing game with the ability to cover significant ground while still filling in well in the run game. McDaniel previously discussed with reporters what he liked about it, and he said, and because of that, he's found so many different tools in his game to be successful that make him such a cool player, how he defeats blocks with his hands and his feet, etc., etc. Upgrades at cornerback and inside linebacker help along the back end. A breakthrough season could be forthcoming for Jalen Phillips. Phillips is a natural edge rusher with 15.5 sacks through his first 2 seasons. His fluidity, length, and upside have him on the verge of entering top-tier territory by securing 10-plus sacks per season. Huge upside, an AFC executive told Fowler. He was raw coming in, but a big athlete, and he plays his ass off. Expecting huge year from him. The Dolphins feature an excellent front. Both Wilkins and Seiler are counted among the league's best run defenders. Raekwon Davis can continue in his limited nose tackle role. Healthy versions of Chubb and Emmanuel Ogbah provide the Miami with a strong rotation working off the edge. And Ogbah, like he's told Aaron Wilson, he said this defense can be as good as we want to be. The Buffalo Bills and Kansas City Chiefs are 2 teams the Dolphins must overcome. First in Miami's own division, then to claim the AFC crown. Defense may not be as sexy as slinging the ball over the yard, but it's absolutely vital for the Dolphins to counter the likes of Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. As it's currently comprised, Miami's D under Fangio's supervision should be a top 5 unit to create excellent complementary football. Ball game. I'm going back to you on this one. Sorry, Richmond.
Yes, sir.
You're good. You're good. Come on with it.
Listen, this is something we've been talking about while everyone's been, and we've joined in the hype of how sexy this offense is going to be, but something we've continuously been talking about and we've been Birdman hand rubbing over is Fangio and this defense. And we expect this defense to enter the top 10. Like, ball game. We were at one point last year, I know you remember it, where we had a top 10 scoring offense and our defense was allowing more points per game than a top 10 scoring offense.
More points.
No longer hope. Yeah, no longer hopefully ball game. Your thoughts, because I agree. I think we are the most dangerous team in the NFL because we've got the offense that can keep up with you in a shootout, but we got the defense that might not allow even you enter a shootout ball game.
Well, I think when you hear the article, man, and they talk about Fangio, bro, like legitimately what the Dolphins did, you went out and you got basically a head coach for your defense. You got a guy and brought him in. You can give him complete control of his guys, and they can go out and execute his entire plan without having to ever worry about anything going over on the other side of the ball. But you got, Fangio's respectful enough to be able to ask Mike and tie in and, and go through that process. But you had 2 head coaches, and that's okay because Mike's young enough with no ego involved in the process. That speaks to the selflessness of him as a head coach, that you can go and grab a guy like Fangio who's had head coaching experience, no matter whether he was successful or not. His name rings out throughout the league. Bring him in to fix the thing that without a shadow of a doubt you can't fix or wasn't fixed under the last guy that you had there. That in itself, for me, was the icing on top of the cake. Because one hand, in football, the defense really doesn't owe the offense anything other than getting the ball back to them, right? So if they don't have to do anything else other than Fangio, other than just execute his game plan, Mike checks off in the box to see how he's going to execute that and just let him go with it. He's already proven that he can do that. And the guys that we have on this defense, I know without a shadow of a doubt are athletically smart and physically capable of doing all of the things that he wants from them and more. So the mastermind gets to actually execute his entire plan with his soldiers, and his soldiers are willing to go to war for him and stay out there as long as it needs to be done. And in this era, I think we're perfectly matched to match up with anything that anybody's willing to present on any given Sunday, and that's a beautiful thing, right, across the board. I mean, I don't know if I answered your question, but the thing for me is that, like, yes, the offense is sexy, and that's what fills seats, and people want to see touchdowns. But hell, when you watch the Dolphins this year, you're not going to. Well, people are going to have to. Yeah, you'll see the Dolphins offense getting the ball back repeatedly. That defense is going to be, and the fact that they have to go into practice, right? This is the craziest part, right, for me. When you think about how skilled our offense is, and in the gains and the growth that we expect Tua to have, the guys that are on the opposite side of the ball have to line up against Waddle and Hill and, you know what I'm saying, Ezukama and A-Chain and Moser and Tua, and, you know what I'm saying, they got to line up against these guys in practice. So we really, without a shadow of a doubt, have a iron sharpening iron situation every single day in practice. You can't help but get better, because you can't tell me most players, most people, when you talk about the top teams in the AFC, right? When you talk about Kansas City, the first thing out of their mouth is Mahomes. And then there's a far stretch and a lot of pause as to who their next best player is. No, they'll say Kelsey. But aside from that, once you say Mahomes and Kelsey, what's left? Their success is predicated off of Andy Reid. Andy Reid is the reason why they're doing what they're doing. You feel me? Because I believe he's one of the top minds in the game. But then when you got two guys, Mike has proven that he's one of the smartest and most cerebral guys on the offensive side of the ball, right? That's all. Everybody in the NFL says that about the guy. So I'm not going to at any point go to try to have anybody. If they don't believe it, then you're just not watching and listening. But then you turn around and you got one of the greatest minds of this era running your defense. How can you fail? Really and truthfully, especially when guys have a heartfelt desire at this point right now to do nothing but go out and prove the entire league wrong. Tyreek brought in the swagger of, you know what, bro? I know what it takes to win. We got it here. Y'all got to believe it like I believe it. And if you ain't got it, I'm going to carry it for you. But they got that, because I saw games where they played for each other and they did things. I feel like Boyer let them down. I ain't going to lie. There was a lot of games where Boyer and a lot of bad calls let the defense down, and they had situations in hand. But I don't believe Fangio's going to ever do that to them. And I believe they believe that. These guys are happy. These guys are upbeat. These guys are all in on understanding that, you know what, we are right where we need to be and we can get this accomplished, and nobody can stop us but us. And that's a scary thing, because we all know how good this offense was. But if you get the defense to match that, stand by.
What are your thoughts, Richmond? Do you think this defense makes us one of the most dangerous NFL teams, if not the most dangerous NFL team?
Yeah, I see easily, like you said, if we were ranked 18, when they looked at Fangio defenses, all of them were in the top 10, and several 4 or 5 times they were in the top 5. And I think what really stuck out to me in the article, one of the things was, it was 3 things: eliminate explosive plays, create turnovers, and make a quarterback be patient. And that's the last thing you want to do against a defense like this, especially when you got that type of edge rushes and stuff that we have. If you'll be patient, you're going to start thinking, and then once you start getting hit, and the way he moves things and plays chess with defense, it could be, especially on a young, even an older seasoned quarterback, but veteran, you start getting hit, they start getting happy feet. They start questioning, do I go here? Do I go there? The snap based on way, and it could turn ugly real quick, which in that case, most of the time, that's where you start getting the turnovers, because you're not making the right decisions with the football, this and that. And then that's when games get out of hand. You know, we can have our defense scoring, pick sixes, or, create turnovers where we get quick scores, whether they turn back over to the offense or whatever. So for us to be the number 6 defense, like you said, and Tua missed 5-6 games last year, and then if he's there, so we should be a top 5 offense. We possibly be top 5 in both of them, but I'm saying easily both offense and defense, we should be top 10. So Definitely, if they're not paying attention, they will be, and it won't take them long.
Love it. Guys, we got over 300 of you in the room. Please smash that like button, subscribe if you're new. I appreciate all y'all for coming through and supporting tonight. Let's keep it rolling because, I hit up the gentleman. I said, listen, Eric is a comma kind of broke out last year. I hit up the boys. I said, give me 2 names from each of you of guys you think could have a breakout at this year's training camp. So we got another list to prep y'all for training camp right here. Here are our breakout candidates for 2023 Miami Dolphins training camp. So let's start off Richmond. We'll start off with you, and then we'll go to BallGame. So you've got Austin Jackson and a man who made a whole hell of a lot of noise during OTAs, Mitchell Agudier, the free agent out of Miami, who looks like he's going to make this 53-man roster if he keeps up that effort and on a team that's stacked with edge options. Your thoughts on Austin Jackson and Mitchell Agudier potentially being breakout candidates for the Dolphins at training camp?
Yeah, I thought Austin Jackson last year was definitely headed on the right path. I think what slowed him down was the injury and not being able to fully kind of recover from it during the season. But, I've said this before, this is a money year for Austin Jackson. If you want to continue to play, if you want to be here, or when you want to continue to play, this is where you got to shine. So I think he's definitely benefited with playing with Teron Armstead, learning stuff from a veteran like that, being able to pick his brain, this and that. And he really looked like more comfortable at the right than he did at the left. And like I said, this is his 4th year. We knew he was kind of a project, very athletic kid coming out of USC, but now it's time to kind of put everything together. So if we get that right tackle position solidified, I think that's going to be a buzz throughout training camp, because I think that's going to make everybody, or the naysayers or whatever, kind of settle down and say, well, we got a decent enough offensive line where we can protect Tua, and, we got the running backs, the receivers, this and that, and we can really go out and execute without really having to say somebody's out there throwing lookout blocks and worried about Tua, because it's definitely his blind side. So I picked him, and then the other young man, you said Mitchell Agudier, the way, the mini camps, the OTAs, this and that. But I just did a little research on him, and I didn't know that he had brain surgery, I guess, as a kid, and recovered from that.
Oh, wow.
And then played a little bit junior college ball, and then went to UCLA, and then played his last year at University of Miami. I think what I like about him is he's still raw, but he's got the effort, and I just think some of the stuff he had to deal with early on, I think he's hungry. And when you can take a guy like that, he's 6'4", 245, somewhere like that, but with that type of frame, he could easily add 10 pounds. He's playing the outside linebacker position. But when you can learn how to rush the passer from 2 guys like Chubb and Phillips, he's just got tremendous upside. And if he continues to keep the same work ethic, that's a guy that you can develop when you have to make a decision, a few years down the road, that you've got somebody to just step in, kind of like we were talking about with WIlkins, Davis, and Siler. This is the type of guys you want, either free agent, late round picks that you can develop to continue, because you're not going to be able to keep all of your superstars. So you got to get in a pattern of developing your upcoming talent. So when you got to make a tough decision, like you said, 5 guys that are the core of this team, if you keep those guys, you still got to have other pieces to complement those guys. And I think you're definitely going. If you heard about him in OTAs, I think you're going to continue to hear about him. I just love his motor, the way he works and stuff like that. So that's why I chose him.
Yeah. Let's go. Mr. BallGame. Eric Saubert and Channing Tindall, who made your Under the Radars list we did a couple weeks ago. Remember, he made your Under the Radar list. So let's hear this one. Let's hear this.
All right. So I'm going to start with Tindall, because I think, when I put him on the Under the Radar list, I just believe that they went about it the right way of giving him the year to experience what being a pro would be like. You know what I'm saying? But as a way he was picked, and this is really and truthfully the time now where he has to step up and take reps from guys and prove and show that, then him sitting back watching and doing the things that they asked of him last year were not in vain. And a lot of that comes with the fact that for all intents and purposes, if you look at the athleticism of this kid, he's the fastest linebacker we have by far. And he came from a school that right now at this point has been the hub for most of the top 10 defensive players that they drafted. And when you're surrounded by that much talent, there's got to be, in my opinion, a desire for you to say to yourself, man, I'm just as good as all these guys. I just got to go out and prove it. And for me, I think the best place for him to go do it is in training camp, because they need him. They need him to take the next step, because he's going to be a part of, I think, the future of this team. And the quicker he acclimates and the faster he gets through his processes of learning everything, and he can get out there and just react without having to think about much, the better off he's going to be. And I believe that in this system, in Fangio's system, that plays to the strength of what he's going to be able to do. And I believe he's going to actually he's going to steal some reps from somebody, but it's going to start in training camp for me. And he put on some weight, put on some muscle to bulk up a bit, and that's all going to help him be able to do better the things that we actually got him to do anyway, because the guy will never shy of contact. He's willing to go out and, sacrifice himself to learn pretty much whatever he's got to do to be able to contribute to this team. So for me, I doubled down on him and went back to him, but I just believe that this kid is going to show us some really good stuff to force them to have to play him in some positions early and often for us in the season. He's going to make a key contribution. I picked Saubert. I picked Saubert, bro, because Saubert got a whole lot of youngsters on his ass right now. And, with Durham Smythe, and even when they bought Tyler Croft in, Tyler Croft was the guy that I thought that it was an overabundance of what they all do the same thing kind of good. They were all good, really above average to good.
He was on your danger of being cut list, right? Tyler Croft, you put him on your danger. Yeah.
Yep, I did. And the reason I did was because I just believe that Eric Saubert, right, coming from Eric, I think Eric has I believe Eric has a chip on his shoulder. He has something to prove, being a guy that's been around the league a little bit, but still got enough left in the tank to be able to want to go compete. And when you go grab a guy like Croft, right, they're both from the same thing, but I just believe that Eric is the better, more refined blocker. He's a guy that is, with a little bit softer hands, but he's got to prove that, right? And I just believe that with all these young guys behind him and Croft there on his heels as well, it's going to push him to go ahead and solidify himself in that number 2 spot. I don't believe at any point that Durham Smythe as a true tight end is going to be unseated from that position. It could happen, but I believe that gives us basically 2 really good, solid, old school traditional tight ends, and I just think that Eric's going to go ahead and separate himself in training camp from the rest of these guys. The hybrids I don't consider, but they're still in the position that's going to push him and have to push him to make his claim to be able to stay around. And I think that's what he's going to do, to be honest with you. I believe he's going to go ahead and separate himself to be the clear number 2.
For me, I went with Isaiah Wynn. If this guy wins the left guard job, I mean, is there a bigger breakout we could hope for? I think now he's at a position where I think he's comfortable. He's back to the left side where he's comfortable. I think, I had this conversation with someone yesterday about, Bill Belichick, and we were talking about if Bill Belichick is turning into actually one of the most overrated coaches in the NFL right now. Because if you actually look into him, he's actually getting close to the most losses for a head coach as well, right? He's starting to gain traction on that number as well. But when you look at Bill Belichick and you think of Dante Scarnecchia, that offensive line has not been the same since Dante Scarnecchia left. They haven't been able to get their ish together since Dante Scarnecchia left. And Isaiah Wynn felt like he was one of the casualties of them losing a great offensive line mind. Now he's surrounded by, I think Frank Smith and McDaniel are really brilliant offensive line minds. And now they've got a guy in Butch Berry who's executing what they want, their vision. And I think this is the perfect situation for Isaiah Wynn to break out and become a starter again. You know, the competition is wide open, and the guy you're competing with in Liam Eichenberg, if you are on your P's and Q's and on your ones and twos, you should have no problem handling him, Isaiah. You should have no problem knocking him off. So Breakout, lock down that left guard spot because we need some kind of answer there, whether it's short-term or long-term, we need an answer. And number 2 for me is Bryce Thompson. You're talking about a kid over the past couple of years who he's played for New Orleans. All right, he's played some time for New Orleans, and in last XFL season, he appeared in 10 games for the Seattle Sea Dragons. He started 9 of them. He had 34 tackles, 21 of those were solo, and he had 2 interceptions. And coming from Tennessee, we see it's the same song and dance we see every offseason, the last 4 or 5. A corner emerges, comes out of nowhere, and locks it down. And I think Bryce Thompson is going to make it. He's going to make life harder on Keon Crossan, Justin Bethel, and Noah Benogany. I think he's going to give them a real decision to make. And I could see Bryce Thompson playing at a high enough level to make this team. So he was Mitchell Agudier and Bryce Thompson were arguably 2 of the players other than Devin A-Chain, but they were the 2 players we're talking most about on defense coming out of nowhere during the OTAs. And these are 2 guys where I think they can legitimately make the roster this offseason and through training camp. Man, training camp's going to be so exciting to watch. We are almost just there. And finally, guys, I gotta ask you the question, because Sharp Analysis, Warren Sharp, they ranked the NFL head coaches, and Andy Reid was number 1, Harbaugh was 2, McDermott was 3, Sirianni was 4, Kyle Shanahan was 5, Belichick 6, McVay 7, Tomlin 8, Peterson 9, Sean Payton 10, Pete Carroll 11, Zach Taylor 12, Vrabel 13, and Mike McDaniel, after 1 year, already entering the top 15, already getting respected as the number 14th overall head coach. Before we get into final thoughts, I'm going to ask you guys this question. Do you consider Mike McDaniel already a top 15 head coach? Because I do. Richmond, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think he is. And typically, you don't always make that transition as quick, coming from a coordinator to a head coach, because there's so much you got to learn. But, with him having the offense perform the way he did, the way he's kind of put this thing together, and then to add Fangio, knowing that, this is going to help you not only as a head coach, but like BallGame says, it's almost like you have 2 head coaches. So you're getting knowledge from the opposite side of the ball. That's not your strength, this and that. And it just turns out to be a great thing. So, yeah, I definitely think we're going to see him continue to mature and grow. So I think we got one of the great young minds in the league right now. So easily 14, but yeah, I'm good with that.
What do you see, BallGame? You see him as a top 15 head coach already?
I do, man. I think, one thing that's been said about him consistently, even before he was our head coach, is that he was one of the greatest minds, offensive minds in NFL, even as a coordinator. Mm-hmm. So to have that mind be taken up to head coach, I knew he struggled a bit the first year just because most young head coaches, they get in their way a bit, you know what I mean? But now at this point, I think, the guy's smart enough to know what he knows and what he don't know. He got a whole, like you say, he got a whole nother coach over there who's been through it that can help him, and then they can put things in place to help him get out of his own way, so that he can just, because really and truthfully, the head coach's job at this point really is just to deal with the referees, right?
Yeah.
If everything is dialed in on what I'm saying, through the week, he just politicking with the refs, trying to make sure that the calls don't get lopsided in favor of the other team. And I believe Mike is smart enough to understand that. You know what I'm saying? I don't think anybody game plans the way he game plans. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And they say that about him. He's very meticulous. He's very, very, very anal about, his X's and O's. And, he believes that there's no such thing as a perfect play, because at any time things can get disrupted. But if you perfect trying to make the play perfect, that's good enough. And that's what he wants these guys to go out and take every play, forget the last one, make it the best, make your next play the best play. That type of mindset, I can see why they would put him where they put him. You know what I mean? And it's an honor, right? Because you think about it, there's 18 other guys behind him that he's looking over his shoulder at, and he's already at 14. Shit, by the end of the year, if he's holding up the trophy, he automatically jumps into the top 5. You know what I'm saying? So, knowledge-wise, you know what I'm saying, the love of the team, his ability to motivate men around him to find another level to themselves, I don't have a problem with them ranking him where they ranked him. I think he's a brilliant guy, and I think we extremely, extremely lucky to have him, bro. So,
guys, over 300 of you in the room, please smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Before we get out of here, though, I saved this one. Dolphins for life. Richmond, if BallGame comes off the edge, what would you do to him?
I knew you saw that.
Sign Dalvin to end games and playoffs. Transition tag WIlkins next year. Trade Cedric. So before we get out of here, Richmond, would you be serving pancakes out here? Or what would you be doing, huh?
Whatever, we got to bring him back.
You saw my reply, right?
Yeah.
What position does he play? Is that what you said?
You saw my reply, right?
No. What was your reply? I didn't see your reply. What was your reply?
My reply was he not gonna even see me because he's gonna be so occupied with that end that, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna slide right on by to the quarterback. I'm playing nickelback. They're not putting me anywhere. I'm a nickelback. I'm a nickel in a corner. I'm coming off the edge. So the end, you know what I'm saying, the end gonna have him occupied. I got a free run. You know what I'm saying?
What if
he might catch me every now and then. You know what I'm saying, but. Well, if you slide, then I'm screwed.
Just duck. Yeah.
Here it is.
I'll accept the loss on my end as long as somebody else can get free on the opposite side. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the game is about sacrifice. You know what I mean?
We're on the same team. You ain't got to worry about that ball game. We're on the same team.
You guys are too much.
That's
all
what's
right.
up. That's what's up.
Yeah. All right, guys, please do us a favor. Smash the like button on the way out. We're going to get out of here. We appreciate all of y'all for coming through. We'll be back next week. And when we're back next week, guess what? The rookies will have reported. So we got a lot to talk about still as we head into next week. And you can catch me tomorrow at 5 p.m. with Neil Driscoll for Fin Too Deep. And we're keeping the training camp theme going, as tomorrow we're going to look at the top 5 position battles to watch at training camp. All right, so be on the lookout for tomorrow's episode. Until next time, you already know what time it is. Fins up all day, every day. We'll see y'all in the next one. Have a fantastic rest of your hump day. We're out.